very good morning and a warm welcome to one and all. Hope you and your close ones are doing well and are in good health. I am Latika, your host for today's event. Before moving on to today's event, I would first like to thank you all for taking out time on a pleasant Sunday morning and attending a virtual program, The Secret of Successful Stock Picking. I would now take a minute to introduce our company, Concept Investville Private Limited, to our new viewers. So, Concept Investville is a boutique investment services company operating in Indian capital market since last 25 years. Our business is divided into three verticals. First is Concept Wealth Plus, which is our PMS service. Then is Investel Advisory, which is our advisory services. And finally, distribution services of various financial products to our HNI and UHNI clients. We are in portfolio management business since last 12 Legend, Marvel, and AI Dynamic 200. We believe in high client orientation and constantly strive to add value to our clients. To know more about our services and plans, you can get in touch with our marketing team. Now I would like to introduce our speaker for the day, Mr. Navid Virani, Research Head at Concept Investville. He is a CFA charter holder and a business graduate. He has more than 5 years of experience in the field of equity research. Now, finally, coming on to today's topic, the secret of successful stock picking. When we hear or read about successful investors, we all want to know the secret ingredient to be wealthy. But what we miss out is that it is not one ingredient, but a blend of factors which comes to play. Having said that, we all know one shoe cannot fit all. In the same way, some style of investing may work for someone, but the same style cannot work for some other person. But what works for all great investors are their rules. Having a disciplined approach towards investing is a prerequisite to be successful. Talking about great investors, how cannot we not mention Warren Buffett, who says, only buy something that you would be perfectly happy to hold if the market shut down for 10 years. And this kind of conviction can be achieved only when the companies pass all the stringent tests. We at Concept believe the same and follow a well-thought investment process which Navid will speak about in his presentation. I request you all to post your questions in the Q&A window visible at the bottom of your screen. We will be very happy to answer your questions toward the end of this event. So now I hand the floor to Navid for his presentation. Over to you, Navid.
Thank you, Latika. Thank you for such a good introduction and also for introducing the topic and making my task for the day a little bit easier. So now I'll share my screen so that you all can see my slides as well. I am not given the rights to share my screen. Can you please help me out with this? Hardik?
Now you can go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, is my screen visible?
Yes, Navid.
Yes, Navid, it is visible.
Okay. Yeah. So very good morning and a warm welcome to each and every one of you. Thank you for taking out the time and attending this presentation, especially on a Sunday morning. So is divided into three parts. In the first part, we will talk about what is required to be successful at investing. and what are the sources to generate return for an investors, right? In the second part, we will discuss as to what are the mistakes we commit while exploiting these sources and making an excess return for ourselves. And lastly, I will discuss our own research process which we follow at Concept Investwell. So with this background, let's start with our presentation for today. Investing, we believe, is just like gardening. Like in gardening, once you make the soil and sow the seed, there is not much activity which is required for you to be done, apart from tracking the progress of your plant. Of course, you make some necessary changes here and there, like cutting down the weeds and changing the position of the plant, which can help the plant grow better. Similarly, in investing also, once you have spotted and invested in good set of businesses, you don't really need to tamper with the mix that much. You just need to track the progress of the businesses you are invested in. This does not mean that you can be carefree or foolhardy about your investments. It's absolutely imperative to keep a close track on them and take corrective actions whenever required. So the bottom line is, investing, just like gardening, is a low activity and a high patience profession. Let's try to understand this with the help of a parallel. This is a chart of a company called Titan, which captures its journey for the last 5 years. For those who are new, Titan is one of the companies which we hold in our PMS portfolio since 12 years now. So in the last 60 months, Titan, if you see, has remained range bound for 26 months during various periods. Therefore, Titan didn't give any return for 43% of the months. But guess what is the compounded return which Titan has given to its investors in the last 5 years? It's a staggering 35.88%. मतलब अगर आप लास्ट 5 सालों में टाइटन का स्टॉक लेकर सिर्फ बैठ जाते और कुछ भी नहीं करते, फिर भी आप हर साल 36% रिटर्न बनाने में कामयाब हो सकते थे। हमने सेम गार्डनिंग का फंडा टाइटन के लिए अप्लाई किया और हमारे इन्वेस्टर के फंड्स को इस कंपनी में रेगुलरली इन्वेस्ट करते गए, एंड वी हैव बीन फॉर्चुनेट इनफ टू गेट द बेनिफिट ऑफ सच ग्रेट वेल्थ क्रिएशन. It's a well-known fact that we invest to make money. But investors also have to understand another fact, that investing is a competitive game. And you need to know your source of advantage in order to do well at investing. Only if you have something which your counterparty doesn't, then and only then you can be successful at investing. आपको ये पता होना जरूरी है कि आपके पास ऐसा क्या है जो आपके सामने वाली काउंटर पार्टी के पास नहीं है. You will only be able to benefit from investing if you have something others don't. In short, आपको ये पता होना जरूरी है कि आपके पास जो एडवांटेज है वो कितना स्ट्रॉन्ग और कितना सस्टेनेबल है. There is a popular notion which goes around in the market which says that prices are always right, as they discount all the available information there is in the market. In Gujarati, people often say कि भाव भगवान છે. But is that really true? Let's try to understand this with the help of another parallel. Market works just like an ordinary machine, which converts inputs into outputs. The only difference is that the normal machine takes in raw materials and gives output in some another form. On the other hand, market takes information as its inputs and gives output in the form of prices. I am sure all of you would agree with me that there is no such machine in the world which can convert 100% of its input into output without creating any wastage. Similarly, we need to accept the fact that there is no such market which can convert 100% of its information into prices all the time. Therefore, it is fair to say that prices are not always right and 100% efficient market does not exist. Now, before moving forward, I would like to introduce a term here. This term is called inefficiency. Inefficiency in investing context means the opportunity to make money. पैसा बनाने की opportunity. पैसा बनाने की opportunity को हम 4 parts में divide करते हैं: informational inefficiency, technical inefficiency, analytical inefficiency, and lastly behavioral inefficiency. Now let's try and understand all these inefficiencies in some depth. The first inefficiency which we will try to understand is the informational inefficiency. You have information which others don't have. If you have information which others don't have, you have access to informational inefficiency. मतलब आपके पास ऐसी कोई इंफॉर्मेशन है जो दूसरों के पास नहीं है, तो आप वो इंफॉर्मेशन के जरिए पैसा बनाने में कामयाब हो सकते हैं। बट क्या ये करना इतना आसान है जितना ये सुनाई देता है? This straight answer to this is a simple no. And there are two reasons for this. The first reason is that SEBI, our stock market regulator, has come up with many regulations which mandates companies to report a set of updates from time to time. Therefore, जो unknown information की bucket है, that itself has become very small. Because SEBI ने काफी सारे रिपोर्टिंग करना कंपनीज के लिए कंपलसरी कर दिया है। अगर आपके साथ एक रिसेंट एग्जांपल शेयर करूं तो कुछ टाइम पहले बड़े फंड हाउसेस और बड़े इन्वेस्टर्स कंपनी के मैनेजमेंट के साथ 1-to-1 मीटिंग्स कर लिया करते थे और इन मीटिंग्स में डिस्कस की हुई सारी बातें कभी भी पब्लिक नहीं हुआ करती थी। बट सेबी in its recent announcement made it compulsory for management to share the transcript of the meeting in the next 24 hours. Another reason why this information inefficiency, taking advantage of informational inefficiency has become so difficult is because of technology. As we all know, technology is growing by leaps and bounds. And इस technological growth की वजह से किसी भी information को viral करना बहुत आसान हो चुका है। Therefore, unique information का मिलना और मुश्किल हो गया है। Still, if you want to check whether the information you have is giving you an informational advantage or not, you just need to ask yourself a simple question. And that question is it possible in today's day and age for me to have information which others don't? If the answer to this question is a yes for you, then you might have informational inefficiency by your side. Moving on to the next inefficiency, which is our technical inefficiency. Technical inefficiency is created when your counterparty acts without fundamental reasoning. To understand this better, imagine a levered investor who has taken on debt and has invested in a euphoric market. एक इन्वेस्टर जिसने कर्जा लेकर बढ़ते हुए मार्केट में इन्वेस्ट किया हो. Imagine market corrects by 20%. As you might be aware that RBI has mandated promoters of banks to keep their shareholding below 26%. At that point in time, the promoter shareholding in Kotak Bank was a little over 26%. And somewhere in July 2020, Mr. Uday Kotak had to sell shares just to comply with the RBI guidelines. This is another example of a forced seller. If you liked Kotak Bank as a company at that point, you would have invested and also would have benefited out of this inefficiency. One point which I would like you all to remember is that this inefficiency gets pronounced at extremes. मतलब extreme positive as well as extreme negative market पे ऐसे technical inefficiency के जरिए पैसा बनाने की opportunities हमें ज्यादा मिल सकती है. Now we will come to our third inefficiency, that is the analytical inefficiency. जैसा कि नाम से ही आपको पता चल रहा है कि इस इनएफिशिएंसी में हम एनालिसिस के जरिए पैसा बनाने की बात कर रहे हैं. You can have access to this inefficiency only and only if you are able to see the same thing differently. मतलब इंफॉर्मेशन तो सबके पास एक जैसी ही है, बट आपके पास कोई ऐसा तरीका है जिसको हेल्प से आप इस इंफॉर्मेशन को अलग तरीके से देखने में कामयाब हो सकते हैं. सेम इंफॉर्मेशन को दूसरों से बेटर यूज करने के लिए आपको एनालिटिकल स्किल होना जरूरी है. यहाँ पर इन्वेस्टमेंट फर्म्स को रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स के कंपैरिजन में एक एडवांटेज हो जाता है, ओनली बिकॉज इन्वेस्टमेंट फर्म्स हैव एक्सेस टू बेटर टैलेंट, दैट इज रिसर्च एनालिस्ट्स एंड बेटर टूल्स फॉर एनालिसिस. इसको हम एक एग्जांपल के हेल्प से अगर समझने की कोशिश करें तो अगर आप एक वीकेंड टू वीकेंड क्रिकेट खेलने वाले प्लेयर को एक प्रोफेशनल क्रिकेटर के सामने कम्पीट करवा देते हैं तो जाहिर सी बात है, even if you give the weekend warrior the best of the equipments to play with, he will not be able to beat the professional. And the only difference which will get created is because the professional cricketer has superior techniques. I want to share an example with you which will help you understand how investment firms have an upper hand in analytics. This is a company called Manpasand Beverages, which gained a lot of negative publicity in 2018 due to its weak governance practices. Stock price came crashing down from 430 rupees to close to 200 rupees within no time. Small investors at that point started buying big quantities of this stock as they were able to see a steep correction and did not analyze the numbers and the prevailing business scenario. Here is a snippet from an article which says that smart investors offloaded their shares of this company to small investors who were busy buying them. This happened because smart investors were analytically more powerful compared to smaller investors. Here is how the stock price has performed since June 2018, and small investors had to pay the price for the same. Small investors had to face a hard time for not being analytically as sound as big investors. Now we will come to the last inefficiency, which is the behavioral inefficiency. जैसा कि आप नाम से वापस पता कर सकते हैं कि यहाँ पर हम किसी टाइप के बिहेवियर की वजह से पैसा बनाने की बात कर रहे हैं. This inefficiency gets created when actions of a group causes price to diverge from its actual value. Behavioral inefficiency is the most persistent, but at the same time, most difficult edge to capture. Persistent because human behavior has been the same since thousands of years and will be the same for thousands more. The way humans act and behave makes this inefficiency persistent. But at the same time, it is very difficult to capture this persistency for a simple reason, because we are also humans. हम भी इंसान हैं. Even if we look at the extreme unexpected stock market movements in the past, we will come to a conclusion that this was not a result of any fundamental change. एकदम से businesses में रातों रात कोई भी change नहीं हो गए थे. It was just a result of overreaction which was done by market participants. I want to share an example with you which helps me understand this point better. This is an example from 2009 when Sensex hit two upper circuits consecutively in one day just after the NDA government got re-elected. Was there any fundamental change which happened overnight? Obviously not. It was just an example of behavioral inefficiency at play. अगर आपको ये inefficiency का फायदा उठाना है, तो आपको मार्केट के सेंटिमेंट्स के बारे में माइंडफुल होना बहुत जरूरी हो जाता है. अगर आप मार्केट के सेंटिमेंट्स को जज करने में कामयाब हो जाते हैं, तो आप बिहेवियरल इनएफिशिएंसी का फायदा उठा सकते हैं. Now that we have covered all the types of inefficiencies, it is important to understand that the quest of finding these inefficiencies is not an easy one, and an investor makes a lot of mistakes in finding these inefficiencies. In investing context, mistakes can be divided into three categories. Firstly, there occurs a mistake when you ignore facts. आपने कुछ facts ignore कर दिए, उसकी वजह से आपका decision जो आपने लिया वो गलत हो गया. Secondly, mistakes happen when you fail to analyze your investment properly. इस चीज का एग्जाम्पल हमने 2 स्लाइड्स पहले मनपसंद के एग्जाम्पल के साथ समझा था. एंड लास्टली, देयर आर मिस्टेक्स व्हिच अकर एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ योर बायस्ड थॉट्स. कई बार हमारा दिमाग ही हमें राइट डिसीजन लेने से रोक देता है. नाउ इन द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड्स वी विल ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड ईच ऑफ दिस मिस्टेक्स इन सम डेप्थ. Let's discuss how facts can help you in avoiding a weak business. So this is a chart of a textile company which became well known for its plastic products. The name of the company is Syntex Industries. If we look at the chart, we find that even if one was able to catch this company right after the bottom of the 2008 crash, then also an investor made a negative compounded return for 12 long years. Just to confess, even we made a mistake of investing in this company and held it for several years. An obvious question which comes to mind after seeing this kind of a performance is that what is the reason for such underperformance? The answer to this question is not a simple one. There are a number of drivers behind the performance of a particular stock, and हम एक set of reasons को pinpoint नहीं कर सकते हैं जो कि stock price के performance के लिए responsible है. Our job as investors is to invest in good businesses and avoid the bad ones. If an investor would have focused on a simple aspect of debt, he would have been able to avoid investing in fintechs. अगर हम देखें तो ये कंपनी के पास अपनी इक्विटी के कंपैरिजन में डेट हमेशा से ही ज्यादा रहा है. ऐसी हाई डेट कंपनीज को बुरे टाइम में नेविगेट करना बहुत बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है, नो मैटर हाउ ग्रेट द बिजनेस इज. Let's see another example where another such fact would have helped an investor in avoiding a weak business. This chart is of a popular airline company called SpiceJet. Company gave a compounded return of 2.5% for a period of 16 long years. This means that if you would have invested in this company, you would fail to even beat inflation. Again, the same question comes up. What are the factors which were responsible for such big return? Again, the same answer. It's impossible to pinpoint at a handful number of factors and hold them responsible for such subpar return. If an investor would have focused on a simple return on capital employed metric, he would have been able to see that the company was not even able to convincingly beat the yearly run rate of inflation of 5 to 6%, let alone beating the cost of capital. So depending upon a simple ROC metric would have helped an investor to avoid falling prey to investing in SpiceJet. I hope these two examples have helped you very well in understanding as to how costly it can be to ignore a simple fact. Now we will move on and discuss the next type of mistake, where we fail to analyze our investments properly and at times pay a huge price for our negligence. Analytical mistakes can have many forms to it, but I have discussed two of them right here. First is when you interpret the data you have at hand in a wrong way. This wrong interpretation leads to erroneous decision making, which hampers our wealth as an investor. Second type is when we tend to extrapolate the present or the past for the future. And when the future turns out to be worse than what we expected, we end up paying a huge price for it. हम ऐसा सोचते हैं कि आज जिस तरीके से बिजनेस चल रहा है, आने वाले टाइम में भी उसी तरीके से बिजनेस चलेगा. But in many cases, we turn out to be wrong and end up losing a lot of money. Another handicap which analysis can cause is by making us overconfident and also by making us feel in control of the situation. Analysis हमें confidence देता है, but sometimes this turns out to become overconfidence. Mark Twain explained this very nicely in his quote, which I have put it here. He says that it ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure, just ain't so. यहाँ पर मार्क ट्वेन हमें ये बताना चाहते हैं कि हमारे तकलीफों की जड़ हमारा लैक ऑफ नॉलेज नहीं है, वो है हमारी ओवर कॉन्फिडेंस. This does not mean that analysis is useless. Analysis, on the other hand, is extremely useful as it reduces the chances of going wrong. I will be communicating the importance of analysis in my further slides. Now we will move on and discuss our last type of mistake, which is caused because of our own thoughts and our inability to control them when required. But before that, I want to share a fact with you. That fact is, our brain is designed to save us from troubles. There is a part of our brain which makes us act without thinking enough just because its job is to keep us safe. But sometimes this fast thinking part does a good enough job of saving us from short-term shocks, but it also deprives us from long-term gains which can result out of taking these short-term shocks. This is what results in biases, and these biases stop us from taking the optimal decision many times. I will confess here that eliminating these biases completely is not at all possible. But being aware about them and being aware about their impact can help us in mitigating them. हमें माइंडफुल होना बहुत जरूरी है इन बायसेस के लिए, सो दैट जरूरत पड़ने पर हम हमारे बायस थॉट्स को इग्नोर कर सके और हमारे लॉन्ग टर्म बेनिफिट के लिए हम डिसीजन ले सके. There are many occasions when we act in a biased manner, and let's try to understand a few of those situations. I am sure all of you must have heard a lot of people saying that मैं कभी लॉस में कोई स्टॉक नहीं बेचता हूं. Sounds like a good idea, right? But it's really not. It's just our biased mind playing a trick on us. The reality is, it's very difficult for us to take on losses. Dissatisfaction which we derive from an X rupee loss is higher than the dissatisfaction which we derive from an equal amount of gain. मतलब हमारा दिमाग सेम अमाउंट ऑफ गेन एंड लॉस को इक्वली नहीं देखता है. हमारा दिमाग लॉसेस को मैग्नीफाई करके देखता है, इसीलिए लॉसेस से हमें ज्यादा दुख होता है. इमेज ऑफ आवर माइंड फॉर अ सेम अमाउंट ऑफ गेन एंड लॉस looks something like this, which result in a biased behavior. We saw an example of such behavior in bulk when investors were not able to sell the shares of Yes Bank even after being aware about the issues it had faced. This was a classic loss averse behavior which was shown by investors. The ideal way of behaving with investment is just like how we behave with ourselves in our lives. We try to cut down on our bad habits and try to make the most of our good habits. But we do the exact opposite when it comes to investing. We try to sell our winners only to buy more of our losers. And eventually we end up paying a huge price for it. But the ideal course of action in investing should be to sell your losers and buy more of your winners. Another situation which I would like to share with you is that we are unable to buy a particular stock after it has moved up some percentage points from the price which we discovered it at. We have the tendency to keep waiting for a correction and then eventually miss the opportunity after spotting the same. Consider an example. समझो आपने एक अच्छा बिजनेस ₹1000 पर डिस्कवर कर लिया. कुछ दिनों बाद जब आपने उस बिजनेस को बाय करने को डिसाइड किया, तब उसकी प्राइस 1100 हो चुकी थी. आपने सोचा कि ये 10% ऊपर चला गया है एंड लेट मी वेट फॉर अ करेक्शन एंड आई विल बाय इट. कुछ दिनों बाद टू योर सरप्राइज दिस बिजनेस इज कोटिंग एट अ प्राइस ऑफ ₹1200. आपने सोचा कि अब तो ये बहुत महंगा हो गया है एंड मे बी यू हैव मिस्ड द बस. दिस कमेंट महंगा हो गया है is a result of anchoring bias. I am sure this has happened to every investor, and let's understand this with the help of a real example. So this example is exactly similar to what I shared with you on the previous slide. Imagine that you were able to spot this business at a price of 783 rupees in December of 2017. Few days after you go and watch the price and you see that it has moved up a certain percentage points. You were unable to buy only because you are anchored. You again visit the stock and find that it has moved up significantly from the price you first discovered it at. You wait in anticipation for a correction, but it continues to move up and reaches at a high of 2215 in November of 2019. You said to yourself कि यार अब तो ये महंगा हो गया है, and it surprises you again by making a new high of 2531 rupees very recently in April of 2021. And now you regret that you might have missed the bus. There is one very important thing which investors often miss while tracking the price is that value also changes with time. And it is more important to track value than it is to track price. So let's see what all changes took place in this company's fundamental when it moved from 783 rupees to 2500 odd rupees. When we try to look at the fundamentals of this company, we find that this company was able to grow its sales as well as its profit at a very decent clip in last 3 years. This company was able to do so while maintaining its strong balance sheet as well as its strong cash generation abilities. And during the course of this period, the company also acquired a brand called Horlicks from a company called GSK. I am sure by now you would have able to judge the name of the company I am talking about. I am talking about the FMCG giant Hindustan Unilever Limited. Now we will discuss the last situation and then move on to the next topic. Investors lot of time buy a particular business only because it is in flavor and everyone in the market is trying to buy the same. They don't conduct their own analysis and they don't conduct their own analysis and realize they have made a mistake only when once they are off the cliff. Like this lemming has realized that he has made a mistake just before when he is about to die. We saw this bias live in action during the Reliance Power IPO. सब इन्वेस्टर्स को ये आईपीओ में अप्लाई करना था जस्ट बिकॉज इनके आसपास के लोग ये आईपीओ में इन्वेस्ट करने का प्लान कर रहे थे. दिस वाज सपोज्ड टू बी अ ब्लॉकबस्टर आईपीओ, बट लेटर आफ्टर द शेयर्स गॉट लिस्टेड it never really saw the light of the day. JP Morgan has explained this bias very nicely in his quote where he says, "Nothing so undermines your financial judgment as the sight of your neighbor getting rich." As an investor, we need to keep one very important thing in mind. We can outsource thinking, but we cannot outsource suffering. And we need to think for ourselves. हम लोगों की थिंकिंग के बेसिस पर इन्वेस्ट तो कर सकते हैं, बट अगर वो मिस्टेक निकलती है तो उसका जो खामियाजा है वो हमें ही भुगतना पड़ेगा. हमारे इन्वेस्टमेंट्स के लिए हमारा खुद सोचना बहुत बहुत जरूरी है. After spending a good amount of time in understanding the inefficiencies and the mistakes, it's time to talk about solutions. There is one simple solution to be able to find out inefficiencies and also to avoid mistakes. This solution is to have a well thought investing process which helps you navigate smoothly and effectively through your investing journey. Please remember that process does not promise you error free investing. Investing is a game of minimizing errors, and process does a great job in saving us from committing errors. Not having a process is not an option if one wants to pursue investing seriously. Now, instead of talking about process in a theoretical way, I would like to share our own process with you, which we follow at Concept Research. It's only through this process we have been able to spot and invest in some significantly good businesses and have been able to create decent returns for our investors over all these years. So without wasting much time, let's jump right in. Now, before getting into the details of our process, I would like to share with you the premise on which we have built our investment process. Investors often try to find out companies which can give them maximum return. But in the quest of doing so, they fall into a lot of traps. So instead of going on a quest of finding the highest returning stock, we are on a quest of eliminating traps, which can hinder our wealth creation process. हम ये मानते हैं कि अगर हम लो क्वालिटी बिजनेसेस को हमारे लिस्ट से एलिमिनेट करने में कामयाब हो जाते हैं, तो हमारे पास जो भी बचेगा वो सब गुड क्वालिटी बिजनेसेस ही होंगे. इसीलिए हमारे प्रोसेस का मेजर ऑब्जेक्टिव लो क्वालिटी बिजनेसेस को हमारे लिस्ट से हटा देना है. We believe that to eliminate the bad is equivalent to finding the good. Charlie Munger, partner of Warren Buffett, explained this with the help of a quote where he says that all I want to know is where I am going to die so that I will never go there. इस कोट से हमें ये पता चलता है कि अगर हमें ये पता हो कि हमें कहाँ नहीं जाना है, तो हम इन्वेस्टिंग या किसी भी प्रोफेशन में बहुत बहुत अच्छा कर सकते हैं. Now, after gaining a decent amount of experience in investing and also in fund management, and most importantly, after learning a lot from other people's experiences, we have been able to spot 5 pitfalls in which we are prone to fall. If we are unable to eliminate these 5 pitfalls, we can be reasonably certain. If we are able to eliminate these 5 pitfalls, we can be reasonably certain of having found a good investment idea. The pitfalls which we have been able to spot are debt, cash flow, return on capital employed, growth, and governance. We have observed that if we miss out on any of these parameters, we might have to pay a hefty price for such a mistake. Now let me explain you as to how we eliminate in falling any of these traps. We will start with debt first. We all know that companies with high debt face a hard time in navigating through uncertain times. इतने सालों में हमने कहीं बड़ी डेट रिडन कंपनीज को भी स्ट्रगल करते हुए देखा है. We try to eliminate this risk by investing in debt-free companies or in companies which have manageable debt. Cash flow is another important parameter which works as a powerhouse to fund the growth of a business. It's a well-known fact that cash on the books does not mean cash in the bank. And cash in the bank is actually required for the company to stay afloat as well as to tap growth opportunities. A cash-starved company will have to go to the market time and again whenever it wants to invest in growth. We try to eliminate cash-starved companies by simply comparing cumulative 5 years of operating cash flow with cumulative 5 years of operating profit. ROCE is a third metric of extreme importance to us. We don't want to invest in companies which are unable to generate ROCEs which are significantly higher than their cost of capital. We also don't want to invest in companies which are able to pass on this ROCE test for a period of 2 to 3 years only to fail again. We eliminate companies which are not able to beat its cost of capital consistently. हमें एक consistent and convincing ROCE generate करने वाली कंपनी में invest करना ज़्यादा comfortable लगता है. Lastly, we have observed that strong fundamentals without growth cannot benefit an investor from investing. And market over a long period of time values growth disproportionately. Therefore, we want to invest companies which are able to grow while keeping these fundamentals intact. We have a mechanism which gives rank to companies based on these parameters, and this combined score which we get is what we term as the greatness score. Along with checking the numbers, it's equally important to check the quality of people who are running the business. Management का importance business में सबसे ज़्यादा होता है, and a good management with good qualities can take an investor from rag to riches. Similarly, a bad management can do the exact opposite. It's like multiplying 100 with 0, where the answer, which you obviously know, is going to be a big 0. So judging the management is a tricky process, and one needs to perform a lot of qualitative checks along the way in order to do so. मैनेजमेंट को नंबर से जज करना, मैनेजमेंट को नंबर्स की तरह जज करना इतना स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड नहीं है, because managements are human beings, right? And we all know how complicated and unpredictable we can be, right? In this regard, we have taken learnings from Mr. Warren Buffett, the greatest investor of all time. He says to look at 3 things in a person: intelligence, energy, and integrity. He also adds not to bother about the first 2 if we are unable to find the third one. We like the management of our companies to know their businesses in and out, which tells us about their competence level, which tells us about their intelligence level. We also want our management to have strong capital allocation skills, which tells us about their competence. And lastly, we try to gauge how management behaves during the time of stress, as that gives us an idea about the integrity of the management. Let me try to explain the same with the help of an example. So here is a company which was called out for having bad corporate governance practices in the year 2018. Company is in the business of providing IT services. IT services, जैसा कि हम सब जानते हैं, is a very good business with extremely high opportunities. And also, if we look at some basic check for this company, we will not be able to eliminate this idea just based on numbers. Company has always had manageable debt, which improved to zero in 2018. Company was also able to generate great ROCs year after year, and growth also looked decent, and so were the margins. But then what went wrong with the company? अगर हम ये कंपनी को टॉप नॉच बिजनेस की लिस्ट में काउंट नहीं करें तो इसको हम एक मीडियम क्वालिटी का बिजनेस तो जरूर कंसिडर कर सकते हैं। फिर ऐसा तो क्या हो गया कि ये कंपनी के इन्वेस्टर्स अपने लिए वेल्थ क्रिएट नहीं कर पाए? इट वाज द मैनेजमेंट व्हिच वाज नॉट अप टू द मार्क, and that resulted in heavy losses for its shareholders. The name of the company which we are discussing here is Vikrangi. This is an example where at least an okay enough business met with a management which was not at all great. So whatever we have discussed so far was a high level of analysis, and time doesn't permit me to go deeper even if I want to. But I would like to share with you that we also look at a lot of other things when we try to study a particular business. As you are aware that we try to be with good businesses for the long haul, and it's only depth which can give us the confidence to stay with the business for the long run. Now, why is depth important, you ask? It's important because it gives us the ability to stand against the crowd and benefit from the same. Depth also gives us the ability to take short-term pain in order to disproportionately benefit in the long term by investing in great quality businesses. Gaining such depth requires a lot of work beyond basic checks and numbers. फ्रॉड्स आजकल बहुत क्रिएटिव हो गए हैं, इसीलिए एज इन्वेस्टर्स हमें भी हमारी स्किल्स को अपग्रेड करना बहुत जरूरी हो चुका है। स्किल्स को अपग्रेड करने के साथ साथ बिजनेस की डेप्थ में पहुंचना और भी जरूरी हो चुका है। ऐसी बहुत सारी चीजें हैं जो हमें सिर्फ बिजनेस की डेप्थ में पहुंचने से ही पता चल सकती है, एंड इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू थिंक फ्रॉम डिफरेंट पर्सपेक्टिव्स ऑफ मल्टीपल स्टेक होल्डर्स बिफोर कमिंग टू अ कंक्लूजन। Now that I have shared our majority of the process with you, it's time to see some real data. This table here shows how our companies in our PMS portfolio fare in terms of the greatness score. And as I shared with you earlier, we believe in being with good businesses for the long haul. The data in this table will conform with my words. We have Titan, Infosys, Relaxo, Crompton, and Supreme with a significantly good greatness score, which we have been holding since 5 years or more. These companies have helped us in creating significant wealth for our investors over the years, and we are confident that these companies will continue doing well even in the times to come. It's the help of this method हम good quality growing businesses को spot करने में कामयाब हुए हैं। Over our 12 years of investing journey, we have been fortunate enough to be able to invest in good quality businesses where we have partnered with some great managements and have been fortunate to witness how good governance looks like. I would like to cite an example of a company here which we hold in our PMS portfolio by the name of Vaibhav Global. So during the 2008 financial crisis, the company was in the business of selling high-end jewelry, and when crisis hit, the company struggled with revenue generation and had significantly high cost overruns. इन सब के चलते हुए VGL को काफी सारे लॉसेस फेस करने पड़े और कॉर्पोरेट डेट रीस्ट्रक्चरिंग का रास्ता चूज करना पड़ा। सुनील अग्रवाल, जो कि वैभव ग्लोबल के फाउंडर है, चाहते तो ये सिचुएशन में गिव अप करके खुद को आसानी से प्रॉब्लम से बचा सकते थे, बट on the contrary, he took the harder route and decided to do 3 things. He didn't ask for forgiveness from lenders. Instead, he asked for time. उन्होंने अपने lenders को बोला कि वो सारी डेट रीपे करने के लिए रेडी है, बस उनको थोड़ा टाइम दे दिया जाए. He also infused money from his own pocket to bring back Vaibhav Global on its feet again. उन्होंने अपने पर्सनल पैसे कंपनी में इन्वेस्ट किए जब कंपनी को उसकी सबसे ज्यादा जरूरत थी. And lastly, he also took a ruthless call to shut down the high-end jewelry business and took an entry into deep discounted jewelry. आखिर में उन्होंने ये डिसाइड किया कि जो हाई एंड ज्वेलरी के बिजनेस में वैभव ग्लोबल काम कर रहा था वो अब वैभव ग्लोबल के लिए बेनिफिशियल बिजनेस नहीं रहेगा एंड वैभव ग्लोबल को लो एंड ज्वेलरी हाई डिस्काउंटेड ज्वेलरी के बिजनेस के अंदर स्टेप इन करना जरूरी हो जाएगा. All these calls eventually panned out in the favor of Vaibhav Global and Mr. Sunil Agrawal. And the company is doing quite well at this point in time. This was a classic pressure situation which I was talking about some slides back, which tests the management integrity to the T. And VGL, I mean Vaibhav Global and Sunil Agrawal, as we saw, did a good job here. इन्वेस्टिंग जर्नी हमारे लिए भी कोई आसान नहीं रही है एंड वी हैव आल्सो हैड आवर ओन फेयर शेयर ऑफ लर्निंग्स अलोंग द वे. One example which I want to share with you, which gave us a good learning, is the example of Thomas Cook. Thomas Cook is run by extremely good management and is owned by an extremely great promoter. It's owned by Prem Vatsa's Fairfax. Prem Vatsa को कनाडा का वॉरेन बफेट माना जाता है. But here, there is one thing which we missed on while building our thesis for Thomas Cook. That was that the business is highly prone to external shocks, and the business is not really in a position to do anything except waiting until things settle down. This is not surprising as Thomas Cook is in the business of travel and tourism. कुछ टाइम पहले जब चाइना और हांगकांग के बीच में अनरेस्ट चल रहा था तब थॉमस कुक का बिजनेस भी बुरी तरीके से इंपैक्ट हुआ था. सिमिलरली, इफ एनीथिंग अनफेवरेबल हैपेंस इन एनी मेजर कंट्री, थॉमस कुक गेट्स इंपैक्टेड. बट वर्ल्ड में कहीं ना कहीं कुछ ना कुछ अनरेस्ट तो हमेशा चलता रहेगा. दैट मीन्स थॉमस कुक को हमेशा कुछ ना कुछ इंपैक्ट करता रहेगा. It is fair to say that the business of Thomas Cook is less in its management's control compared to other businesses which we used to hold in our portfolio, where management could take corrective actions in response to external shocks. And these external shocks at the same time were manageable and did not give the business big blows. We have now discussed quite in detail about our process as to how it helps us not to ignore facts and also how it keeps us analytically sound. But we have still not discussed as to how we take care of our biases. There is one fact which I want to share with you. Even professionals are as biased as non-professionals. It's just that professionals have a well-designed process which helps them to mitigate these biases. And we also have exactly that. We also battle the same way with ourselves like you do, but we keep a simple quote by Richard Feynman in mind. Richard Feynman says that the first principle is that you must not fool yourself and you are the easiest person to fool. This helps us in catching ourselves whenever we are trying to fool ourselves. And this is what helps us in mitigating a lot of biases. I would like to share our thought process here as to what we keep in mind while conducting our research on companies. The first thing and a very simple thing which we keep in mind is that our mind loves to listen to stories. आपके mind को stories सुनना बहुत अच्छा लगता है and these stories tend to stick to our mind and that is why they sell so easily. There are multiple stories about multiple businesses, both good as well as bad, which are floating around from time to time in markets. And as an investor, it's our duty to check the facts and match the same with the story before coming out with a conclusion. These facts, as I mentioned in my previous slides, can come from many sources. And we put in a lot of hard work to not leave any stone unturned. So the bottom line is we try our best not to fall for stories and take action only when facts are as lucrative as the story itself. I want to share an example where facts helped us in holding on to a particular idea or a particular business when the sentiment was extremely negative. SBI कुछ सालों पहले, जैसा कि आप सब जानते हैं, was going through a very rough patch where it faced a number of defaults which resulted in a negative narrative about it in the market, and stock price as a result took a severe beating. A cheap looking stock started looking even cheaper. We had SBI in our portfolio at that time and we still do. हमने वो टाइम पे ये डिसाइड किया कि इंस्टेड ऑफ फॉलोइंग फॉर द नैरेटिव हम फैक्ट्स के बेसिस पे डिसीजन लेना पसंद करेंगे. And we decided to take a very close look at the facts. And while doing our analysis, we found out that PSU banks, means the public sector banks as a whole, has lost market share to more efficient and well-run private sector banks. But ये एनालिसिस करते हुए हमें एक और चीज ये पता चली कि SBI, despite being the largest PSU bank, has never ever lost market share. And we were also confident from our analysis that this is going to be a cyclical slowdown, and also as the bank itself started taking very good measures on technology as well as on risk management front. Numbers में improvement price के comparison में बहुत जल्दी आना शुरू हो गया था, and the above pointers helped us and gave us confidence to hold SBI as well as to continue buying SBI in our new clients. If you look at any of the key metrics which I have shown you on this slide, you will be able to find that SBI has shown a significant improvement in all these key metrics. And there is also a tendency that SBI might continue with this trend. This was a short story as to how facts helped us in holding on to SBI when the narrative was highly negative. This is what we exactly do when fundamentals of any of our businesses come into question before taking a call. Another way with the help of which we stop our mind from fooling ourselves is by seeking disconfirming evidences. Let's understand with the help of this diagram. रिसर्च के दो पार्ट्स होते हैं, एक होते हैं फैक्ट्स और दूसरे होते हैं हमारे बिलीफ्स. एंड देन देयर इज अ स्मॉल सबसेट जहां पर हमारे फैक्ट्स और हमारे बिलीफ्स इंटरसेक्ट करते हैं, जिसे हम कह सकते हैं फैक्ट्स विच वी बिलीव. बट एट टाइम्स देयर इज अ लार्ज चंक ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन which we don't know, and therefore we ignore them and become overly confident on a handful number of factors which we know well. These facts which we end up ignoring includes both positive as well as negative facts, and the good part generally takes care of itself, but it's the bad part which comes to haunt us in the form of permanent loss of capital. We at Concept focus really hard to find out the bad facts which we might have ignored during our analysis and try to eliminate businesses based on the same. Because as I mentioned, removing the bad is equivalent to finding the good. It is very obvious that if we are unable to find bad evidences about a particular business, we have a good investment idea at our hand. We also try and think like an entrepreneur and not focus on one or few bad quarterly earnings, unless the thesis on which we are betting remains intact. We like to focus on the long-term picture. जब तक long-term picture हमारी expectation के हिसाब से दिख रहा है, we don't really get upset by weak short-term results. We appreciate the fact that every business has to go through hiccups, even the best ones. हर बिजनेस को अच्छे और बुरे समय से गुजरना पड़ता है, as that is a part of a journey of any business. We also don't believe in selling just because the stock price has become a few percentage points overvalued. We believe and appreciate that this is also a part of long-term wealth creation journey for an investor. This does not mean that we don't take a sell call even when the prices have become exorbitantly euphoric. We are just talking about moderate valuations here. So the bottom line is we keep our eyes on the business more than the stock price. We take a sell call only on three occasions. Number one, during euphoric valuations. Number two, when we realize that we have committed a mistake. And number three, when our client needs money. Otherwise, just like entrepreneurs, we stay put with the businesses until the business quality and the future prospects are intact. In March of 2020, we saw an unexpected black swan in the form of COVID-19. As we all know, economic activity came to a standstill and we were completely locked down for almost 45 to 50 days. People had to dive into their savings just to survive this time. And so the companies did, right? So this raised a point that discretionary consumption will take a hit as people will delay discretionary expenses for obvious reasons. जाहिर सी बात है, इतने बुरे टाइम में रिलैक्सो के शूज या टाइटन की ज्वेलरी या क्रॉम्पटन के अप्लायंसेस कौन खरीदेगा? Similarly, there was a buzz which was going around banks that banks will face huge defaults from retail borrowers. अगर ये सच होता तो बड़ी banks like Axis, SBI, ICICI and HDFC, which we hold in our portfolio, would have faced a huge damage. More than 40% of our portfolio at that point was allocated in these sectors which I mentioned above. To confess, शुरुआत में हम भी थोड़ा डर गए थे. But soon sanity kicked in and we decided to take the ideal course of action. We kept our eyes on the ground and started questioning as to what will give our companies a very hard time. We also started asking if COVID will bring a structural shift in the behavior of customers or this too will pass. After a lot of companies were transparent enough to conduct conference calls and gave us clarity about the situation as well. We started attending conference call and various interviews apart from going back to the board and checking how capable our companies are to handle the worst. After doing a decent amount of work, we were able to conclude that COVID will just be a temporary blip and it will be the smaller players who will face a very, very hard time, and the bigger players in which we have invested will benefit out of the same. Now, after that conclusion, we started thinking how an entrepreneur does. We started finding out what these companies which we hold in our portfolio were doing to tap the growth opportunity which is going to come along their way at the expense of smaller players either becoming weak or going out of business. Then we observed that our companies were offering help to their channel partners. They were also offering help to their employees. No company took salary cuts. Our companies were also focused on doing businesses online, and they were extremely focused on conserving cash which they can invest behind growth whenever the opportunity presents itself. After learning these facts, we became confident about our companies and were able to ignore the falling stock price. In fact, after this conclusion, we were using COVID fall as an opportunity to buy more. And to our surprise, companies not only just did well on the stock price, but also did exceptionally well on maintaining their financial strength and also tapping on the growth opportunities at the same time. The course of action which we were able to take, was only because we tried to shun away the stock price and tried to think like an entrepreneur. We didn't try to time the market by exiting during the COVID fall and entering again when the market started moving up, because we appreciate the simple point that timing is very difficult. And when you are trying to look at making money from timing, you have to be right on two occasions. You have to be right when you sell at the top, and also you have to be right at picking a stock at the bottom. Investors can seldom be right on both the occasions, and we appreciate this point very well. But the irony is that the market participants mostly don't appreciate this point at all. Lastly, we believe that investing is simple, but it's not easy. And we keep a lot of mental models in mind while conducting our analysis. Now, what is a mental model, you would ask? Mental model is just another word we can use interchangeably for an idea. Mental model is just another word for the term idea. Having different ideas in mind helps us to see the business from multiple perspectives and come to a healthy conclusion. Let me explain this with the help of an example of a carpenter here. Just like a carpenter needs different tools to fix different problems, there is no standard approach which can help you understand all the businesses which exist in the stock market. And an investor has to use varied mental models and has to see different businesses from different lenses from time to time. Charlie Munger explains this in his own words when he says that you need a different checklist and different mental models for different companies. I can never make it easy by saying, here are the three things. You have to derive it yourself to ingrain it in your head for the rest of your life. ये स्लाइड हमारे प्रोसेस जो मैंने आपके साथ डिस्कस की उसका रिजल्ट है. By following the above discussed process, we are able to spot and invest in businesses which are high in quality as well as growth. हमने ये नोटिस किया है कि ये प्रोसेस से फिल्टर होकर निकली हुई कंपनीज कंपटीशन से बेटर होती है और ये क्वालिटीज हमेशा नंबर्स में रिफ्लेक्ट नहीं करती है, बट इन क्वालिटीज को वैल्यूएशन में प्रीमियम जरूर मिलता है. ये प्रोसेस की वजह से we also get to invest in the best players in the industry who are not only gaining market share from their competitors but are also gaining profit share. These companies are free cash flow generating companies which are able to fund their growth all by internal accruals or by taking on manageable funding. Our process also helps us in finding good managements with strong capital allocation skills who follow very good governance practices and take care of various stakeholders simultaneously. Our process also helps us in finding secular stories where we don't need to time our entry and our exit, and we can stay with the company and participate in its long growth runway. In short, इस प्रोसेस से पास होकर निकली हुई कंपनीज में ये सारी या इनमें से काफी सारी क्वालिटीज आपको देखने मिलेगी. एंड अ मिक्सचर ऑफ सच गुड क्वालिटीज इज अ गुड रेसिपी फॉर investing for us at Concept Investment, as it helps us to generate decent risk-adjusted returns. So with that, I would like to thank you all for taking out the time, especially on a Sunday, and attending this presentation. Thank you for listening patiently to what I was trying to communicate. And we can now open the floor for Q&A. Over to you, Latika.
Thank you, Navid, for such an insightful presentation. We enjoyed thoroughly, and I am very sure that all the viewers present with us on the webinar have the same feeling. Now we will move on to the Q&A session, where Siddharth Mandlewala, Fund Manager at Concept Investwell, will also be joining us, and we will be answering to all the questions which we have received over the course of this event. If anyone who wishes to ask a question, you can post even now, while we will try to answer as many questions as possible. So our first question, which we have received from quite a few viewers, is regarding a take on current market, which is at all-time high, and so are valuations. So what are your views on the same? And also at Concept, how much importance you give to valuations for entering any stock? If except valuation, it fits best in your philosophy. Siddharth, would you like to take this question?
Yeah, thank you, Latika. Very good question. Even I will say that Navid's presentation was very insightful. Even I learned something from the presentation. Regarding the what we should do at current levels or current valuation, I would say that there are three things which we should look at. First one being from FY20 earnings to FY21, our earnings have grown by about 20%, which is unbelievable in a COVID year. So Nifty EPS for FY20 was around 444 rupees, which will be around 520 to 525 rupees. So a 20% growth in this year. So many people are not taking this into consideration. The value has gone up. And as per Bloomberg estimates for FY22, it should be above 700 rupees. And for FY23, it should be above 800 rupees. So a big jump in the earning growth of Nifty is being estimated by Bloomberg. This is the first thing which we should understand. Second thing is, yes, we all are looking at the economy doing not that well. Our GDP growth is negative last year. This year, of course, initially everybody thought that we would be growing at around 12%, but now it has trimmed down to around 8-9%. But what we need to consider is stock market represents organized economy. And what we are seeing on the ground is unorganized economy is doing very badly. So organized economy is gaining market share from unorganized. I will cite you some examples like Titan. Titan is doing very well in spite of it being in discretionary consumption. Why? Because it is gaining market share from unorganized. Similarly, as Navid gave example of Crompton, of other companies, they all are gaining market share from unorganized. So this is the other thing which we should again take into consideration. The third thing is, for example, in Q1, after this second wave, what has happened is, again, earnings would be somewhat bad in some companies because there was a semi-lockdown across India. But if you take value of a company and if you do DCF, that is discounted cash flow, what will happen is 1 quarter of earnings will trim down the value of that company by just 1 or 2%. If the earning is completely zero, if revenue is completely zero, then also 1 quarter means just 1 or 2% of the value erosion of the total value of that company. So again, this we need to consider. And last point, fourth point, which is very important and again, which is not being considered by most of the investors, is discount rate. When you do DCF, and as we all know that interest rates are at all-time low or maybe 15-20-year low. So across the world, cost of capital has come down. And because of this, discount rate has also come down. And because of, if you do DCF, again, if discount rate is being trimmed by almost 1%, then value goes up by almost 15%. So again, now do the maths that earning growth is 20% for FY20 between FY20 to 21. So 20% is the advantage which we have got. Discount, because of discount rate, we will get another 15% of a kicker. And because of this Q1 semi-lockdown, we will get a 1 or 2% of value erosion. So typically, our earnings or our stock market should be up by around 30-35% from the pre-COVID level. And currently, we are at 30% up from the pre-COVID level. So I think market valuations are justified. Only caveat and only risk which I think in current market is we need to look at interest rates very, very carefully. Because if interest rate starts to go up, then this again thesis will fall down, and this discount rate, what I explained you, will again be questionable, and that can be a cause of concern for the market. Otherwise, I don't feel that market is terribly overvalued. Yes, it is more or less expensive, but it is not terribly overvalued. and the stocks which are doing well have done well on the earnings front, and that is why they have gone up. So this is our take on stock market. Regarding your second question on valuations, see, valuation is important, but it should not be the starting point. It should be the end point. So when we do any analysis of a company, we first start with the external opportunity, the size of opportunity that the company can capture. That is very important. Then comes business, then comes management, and finally it boils down to at what price you are buying. That is valuation. So valuation comes last in our thesis, and this is how we do our research and pick our stocks. Thank you,
Navid,
Latika.
a follow-up to you. How do you see the current market with respect to behavioral inefficiency, which you spoke about in your presentation?
So, I mean, as I mentioned, that behavioral inefficiency is the most persistent and, of course, at the same time, most difficult to capture. So I believe in this market where the broad market is performing, and I think a lot of stocks are going up every day, and a lot of stocks have the tendency to make you feel bad with the moves which they are showing on a day-to-day basis. So I think inefficiency. So I think at this point it's very important to mitigate the biases which we call fear of missing out, and stick on with businesses which you feel are going to do great. Stick on with businesses which you feel you know a lot of things about. Stick with good management. Stick with good capital allocators, as I mentioned, and just continue with your normal course of action, and not get carried away by the price movements which are taking place in the market from day to day. I think that is the short answer which I would give as to the behavioral inefficiency which is currently playing out in the market.
Okay. So a viewer, he has an opinion that it is wrong to generalize debt. If that would have been the fact, none of the big or large gestation projects would have come. So as per you, what is the definition of manageable debt which we follow at Concept?
So when we talk about manageable debt, we have our own threshold which we have set. Again, this is a threshold which we have set for ourselves, and we find it comfortable being under this threshold. I am not saying that debt-ridden companies or high debt companies will never do well or have never done well, but whatever presentation which I discussed with you guys was from the perspective of how we see businesses. So we like to stay under our threshold of less than 0.5 times debt to equity, and we have all the businesses which are under that threshold at this point, and we will continue to monitor this threshold very closely, as we are personally not comfortable with taking on a lot with our businesses taking on a lot of debt for growth. So that is my answer to this question.
So that's what is your take on generalizing debt as a wrong thing? So what do you feel?
Can you repeat the question?
So is it like thoroughly wrong to generalize debt?
Yeah. I completely agree with what the gentleman has asked, that big companies have made fortune out of taking a huge debt. But see, as an investor, we have many choices around us. So why to go where there is chance of failure? And if you generalize, if you take 100 debt-laden companies and if you take 100 debt-free companies, you will see that volatility is high in debt companies, volatility is low in debt-free companies, and overall also if you see, wealth creation has been made much more in this type of companies. I can give you many examples. Infosys, TCS, they have never come out after the IPO to raise debt, and they have been giving very good returns to shareholders. And as a shareholder, we are very happy and have peaceful sleep with this type of companies. So this is our nature, and this is what we want for our investors to have.
Okay. So one question: what is the future of quant and algo, and how does it affect our investment decision?
So would you like to take that?
No, Navid, you can take.
Can you repeat the question for me once, Latika?
What is the future of quant and algo, and how does it affect our investment decision?
So I believe quant and algo are basically very and it's like boating into uncharted territories at this point, and a lot of people are still trying to figure out as to what is the right way of going about quant investing. Uh, and I think the biggest benefit I believe for which quant investing gives us is that it helps us mitigating biases. So it helps us in doing bias free investing, but at the same time one needs to be very cognizant of the fact that what if your model is wrong. One needs to be extremely cognizant of the models which the quant models which they are using, because if the quant models are not up to date, if the quant models are not up to the mark, and if the quant model has even the slightest of mistakes, that can create nightmares for investors who are relying on those quant models for investing. So I think, in short, quant model is something which everybody is trying to figure out. I think it can do well in the future. Of course, there are no questions about that. But currently, let's wait and watch as to what are the developments which are developing around this particular style of investing.
Would you like to add something about your AI Dynamic 200 plan over here, which in reference to this question?
Yeah, so AI dynamic plan which we offer to our investors at Concept is a blend of human intelligence as well as artificial intelligence, where we exactly use a quant model to filter out companies out of our universe, which is our BSE 200. Then what we do is we try to blend this filtered list with the inputs which our artificial intelligence engine gives us. And after blending these two inputs, which is the input which comes from human intelligence and the input which comes from the artificial intelligence, we try to feed this both these inputs into a quant model and eventually make a portfolio which has the tendency to do well during up markets and has the tendency to fall less during the down markets. That is what we have seen. And as a lot of people on this webinar will be aware that we are offering this plan for more than a year now, and we have invested our own money for test in order to test the efficacy of this model. And so far, it has done quite well for us, and we expect this to continue doing well for us even in the future.
Okay. So due to time constraint, we won't be able to address all the questions, but we are trying to address as many as possible. So our next question is, which sectors will perform next in the next 5 years by considering the current COVID situation or an outlook for the coming decade?
See, I will give you this answer like this, that what we feel is India will be doing very well in next 10 years because of its demography, because of its democracy, and because now the per capita income is at a threshold after which we have seen in some of the developed countries, after crossing $2,000, there is a J curve which happens. So discretionary consumption is something which we are looking at very promisingly, because we feel that this type of consumption will go through the roof in next 5 years, 7 years. So we have positioned our portfolio accordingly. The other thing which we are bullish is on banking, especially the large banks, and obviously in NBFC, the better players we have, the best players in the field we have. Here also the same thesis that India is going through democratization of credit, and this will help the banking sector. The third one being non-lending, that is insurance and asset management companies. Even you can think of companies like exchanges. NSE is still to list, but this type of companies can also be looked at. So non-lending side also we are very bullish, both on life as well as non-life, and asset management companies. Their business models are awesome, and there is a huge long runway. 15-20 year long runway we will have for this type of companies. This type of companies can grow at 15-20% for more than 10 years in these sectors. Even we are bullish on select pharma companies where they are into injectables, where they are into going into complex generics, where they are into branded generics selling in India. So this type of companies can do well. CDMO companies, we feel that it is the future. As we did in IT, same we can do for CDMO in pharma. So this is again a very interesting sector to look at. And finally, platform companies. Many companies are going to list in this year. So again, we will have a look on that type of companies. Yes, they will not come cheap, but we need to learn how to value them. And so platform companies are also very interesting space to look at. So this is the broad range which I would give to this gentleman.
So the next question is, how high growth changes the norm of giving a multiple which has gone up from 20 to 50 in some of the cases. So is high growth a justifiable reason to give high valuation?
High growth is one of the reason you can give for high multiple, but not the only reason. There are many other reasons which typically goes into building a high price earning ratio. So as we have discussed that intangibles. See, intangible is a very important thing to look at. I would again cite an example here of Titan. CK Venkatraghavan in his latest interview said that we would have made 50 crore more profits this year. But we didn't make that 50 crore more profit because we didn't take any salary cut and we didn't fire off any of the employees. So this is a very good thing. What he has done, he has not saved 50 crores, but these employees will ensure that Titan gets more 500 crore profits. So these are the types of intangibles we need to look in companies. Because companies are not here for 1 year, they are here for 15-20 years, and we need to look at this type of different aspects. Because if you see, if this 50 crore would have come, the PE would have automatically come down. Similarly, many companies are spending now more on OPEX and less on CAPEX. So what is happening that OPEX will deter their profit and loss statement, P&L statement. And again, the PE will come down. Same is the case with R&D. If the company is doing high R&D, again, their PE will come down. So this is the type of case which we have seen in many US companies. Amazon has always traded at high PE. But if you dig down, you will see that it is because of the investments which they do is what makes them highly valued. So now as an investor, you can't just go with the numbers. You have to go with many intangibles. You have to read, you have to do your own analysis and then come out with a solution that fits it. Otherwise, high PE, I have seen many stocks. For example, when we bought Titan in 2009, it was quoting at 30 PE. So it was by any standard expensive at that time. And it has always remained expensive. Similar is the case with Relaxo, similar is the case with Supreme and many great companies. So this will happen. So just looking at PE is not the right way to look at it.
So one more point which I would like to add to this answer is that we have a tendency to look at a company and its PE in isolation with its growth. But we should also try to look at companies vis-a-vis its peers. So if one peer is not doing so great, and if your company which you are holding in a portfolio is doing even slightly better than that peer, that your company is bound to get a valuation premium in the form of PE, if you say. And only relying on PE, I think, can be an impaired way of looking at valuations in the stock market now. And also, you should not just compare PE with growth. As Siddharth sir mentioned, that there are a lot of intangibles which we need to understand. And this is going to be more relevant in the times to come, because there are a lot of asset-light businesses which are going to list. And just because the accounting standards So there are a lot of investments which these asset-light businesses makes. For example, let's take an example of Zomato, which is about to list in this year, if news are right. So Zomato invests a lot of money in marketing. Now, marketing, if we look at from accounting standard standpoint, it's an expense and has to go into the P&L. But if we take a back step and look at the bigger picture, this marketing spend which Zomato is currently doing is not marketing expense, it's a customer acquisition cost. So it's an asset which we need to consider and not just marketing spend. Of course, I'm not saying to take 100% of the marketing spend as asset, but you have to, as an investor, try to ask yourself a question as to what percentage of this marketing spend should ideally go to the P&L and what percentage of this marketing spend should ideally go to the balance sheet, which is unable to go to the balance sheet just because of the accounting standards. So the accounting standards which we are currently looking are not, I believe, able to capture the structure of these newly built businesses. So that is why I believe solely looking at PE will not help you a lot in the future when these kind of businesses get listed, and they will also with them present a good opportunity for growth and extremely good opportunity to make money, I believe.
Okay. So next question is, when there is too much noise regarding any company or group of companies, which is currently happening with Adani Group of Stocks and a few others. So as an investor, what should be our call during such times? Navid, would you like to take that?
Sure. So I mentioned in one of my slides that we try to adhere on facts and not try to go with stories. So I think an investor who is trying to look at all these stocks has to adhere on facts more than the stories. So there are a lot of stories which might be going around in the market about all these groups and all these stocks which are moving up crazily every day. I'm not saying that you can't uh, the market is wrong. I'm not saying that, but I'm just trying to say that one needs to check the facts, and if those facts are in line with the story which is floating around in the market, one can go ahead if one is confident about the business doing well in the future.
Okay.
I would just like to add what my guru Rakesh Junjunwala always says that it is not important to join every party in the town.
Correct, sir. So my next question is to you. How important is entry level important for long-term investing?
See, entry level is important, but it is not that much important which investors give. So again, if you are wrong on the entry level, and if the company you have bought is great and is going to compound the earnings over a period of time, then you may delay your returns for 1 or 2 years. So what will happen that your stock will not move up for 1 or 2 years, but after that it will catch up on the earnings. So entry level, if it is wrong, but on the earning side, if that company is compounding and it is a great company and the longevity of growth is there, then I don't feel that the investor will lose money on such stock.
So my
Hello?
next question, yes, sir. So my next question is, if a business or the industry in which the company is operating is very good, can we ignore management in such cases?
No, management is also very important because see, we are long-term investors. We are not here to speculate on the stock prices. So management role comes on first integrity. If everything is there, but they are not caring for minority shareholders, then 100 multiplied by 0 is 0. So first important thing is that they should take care of minority shareholders. I will urge every investor over here to listen to Sun TV's conference call first 20 minutes. One of the analysts of Inam has asked very pertinent questions to the team, because what happened in this company is they are generating very good free cash flow. They have cash of 3,800 crores on their books, but still they have cut the dividend in this year. And they have not cut any commission which is being given to promoter, that is Maran family. So that investor has asked very good questions to management, and now management will have to come and answer him. So management is very important. Other important thing is capital allocation. See, a company is growing, a company is generating high return on capital employed, but after that generation of free cash flow, that free cash flow again has to be deployed, and that is where management capability of executing and management capability of allocating that capital is very important. So I would give equal marks to management, and we would stick to good managements. Then only wealth creation will be long lasting. Otherwise, there will be spurt of share price and not a long term compounding story will happen.
Right, sir, noted. Navid, what are your views on global liquidity and how do you see it coming down? Also, your take on current inflation.
So actually, predicting the level of liquidity is something which I think is out of my scope, and it will only be to the central banks if they are planning to cut down on liquidity. But having said that, I think Fed very recently has shown some signs of cutting down on liquidity. I don't know if they will really do it or not. And on the other hand, if this same kind of liquidity continues to persist and central banks continue to put money in the hands of the country's citizens, I think inflation is bound to come. And I think inflation along with, so I think when inflation will come, and I think in response to that inflation, there is another risk which is coming, and which Siddharth sir also alluded to, which is the rise in interest rates. Because central bank's role is to control inflation, and one of the way to control inflation is by rising interest rates. And if these interest rates goes up, the DCF calculation which Siddharth sir mentioned, I think in his first answer, uh, uh, will take a hit. So the discount rate will increase, and therefore the intrinsic value which we will come up at will take a hit. So I think let's see what central banks do as far as liquidity is concerned. And I think we need to keep a close tab on inflation, because that will, I think, decide the level of interest rates which we are going to see in the future.
Okay. One question, is diversification in portfolio important? Also, apart from equity, is diversification in other asset classes important?
Navid, you can take this.
Yeah, so I mean, so you asked why, I mean, is portfolio diversification important along with the diversification of assets, right?
Yes, Navid.
Yeah, so I think as far as diversification of assets are concerned, diversification should be looked at from a point of view of an individual. So if as an individual I am going to rely on my portfolio for regular income, then I might not be able to do, then equity might not be the best asset class for me to invest large chunk of my portfolio. But if I'm a young person who is relying on his earnings or earnings from his business, and is ready to commit funds for long term compounding, then I think equity can be a great investment for you. So that is on the allocation between assets. Diversification to an extent is very important in equities, because no matter how much analysis you do in the businesses, no matter how good the business is, there are chances that a few businesses which you have picked might not work out the way you thought it to work out. So it should be an ideal portfolio should be a mix of great businesses, I believe, which you believe are going to do well going forward in the future. So I think Siddharth sir says a very small line and explains this point very nicely. He says that I want to have all Virat Kohlis in my portfolio. So that is how I think investing should be approached. You should look forward to invest in great quality companies which are run by great managements, and you should try to have all the companies which are of that caliber. And I think valuation is of course something which you need to keep an eye on, but valuation is again a very abstract topic, and it's like beauty which lies in the eyes of the beholder. So I think yes, diversification across assets is important, and it depends upon what age group you are in and what how much reliance are you going to put on your portfolio. And diversification in stocks is also equally important, because uh, any business can face bad times anytime, and you need to look forward to create a portfolio of uh, all great businesses if possible.
Participants, please note we are not answering any stock specific questions. Apart from that, all your questions which are unanswered, we will try to address in one on one. And with that, we will just we'll take one last question. So Navid, a very good question. Like you have thoroughly explained what is the process we follow at Concept. But as an investor, what are your exit strategies from a stock? Most of your emphasis is on long term investment. So, when do you think of looking at booking profits or exiting any particular stock?
So as I mentioned, we look for an exit during three occasions. First is when we feel that the stock price has become exorbitantly euphoric. Second is when we believe that we have made a mistake and we need to take a corrective action in response to that mistake. And lastly, when our investor is in need of his own money. So apart from this, I mean, again, valuation, I mean, exiting is a very complex topic, and I think all the great investors are also struggling with the same, and we are no different. So exiting is a difficult thing to figure out, but so far what we have figured out is that we exit in these three situations.
Siddhartha, would you like to add something?
Just one more point to what
And
Navid
lastly,
said.
as a parting comment, I just want to.
Should I, Navid?
Sir, if you have used, definitely.
So Latika, just one point to add on exiting, that if we find some very great opportunity against the stock we are holding in our portfolio, that can also be a situation, but that comes very, very rarely, very, very rarely.
Okay, sir.
And
So,
just
ladies,
I just
Navid, you
want
want to add something?
yeah, so I don't want to add particularly to this point, but those investors who are still online with us, I just want to tell them to try to compare their businesses with other businesses also. We usually try to find apple to apple comparisons, and eventually when we are unable to find that apple to compare with our own apple, we just put that exercise in the back burner. But in investing, it's also important to compare apple with mangoes, right? So you need to create the ability to be able to compare one business with a different business based on a lot of qualities. That quality can be numbers, that quality can be management, that quality can be intangibles, as Siddharth mentioned, that quality can be growth. But it's very important to compare businesses amongst each other, and then you need to make a portfolio of businesses which scores a top rank in your list. So I think that is a very good way to approach investing, and I would so we personally try to pursue this kind of approach, and I would urge all our viewers who are currently online with us to follow this kind of approach for their investing activity as well.
Latika, one of the question which has again come up from Ashish sir, that economy is doing badly, but stock market is at all-time high. Actually, I had addressed this question, but again, I think for the benefit of viewers, I will explain it in Hindi now. सी इसमें मुझे 3-4 पॉइंट्स लगते हैं कि मार्केट अभी कैसे वैल्यूएशन पे है. तो सबसे पहला चीज, FY20 में हमारा अर्निंग पर शेयर फॉर निफ्टी कंपनीज वाज अराउंड 444, जो अभी FY21 में जो कंप्लीट हुआ फिस्कल ईयर उसमें 525 के आसपास होगा. तो यानी 20% ग्रोथ इन अ कोविड ईयर, यानी 3 महीना जो लॉकडाउन हमने झेला उसमें उसके बाद भी अर्निंग पर शेयर हमारा 20% से बढ़ा हुआ है. तो ये एक चीज हमें ध्यान में रखनी है. दूसरा, अभी वर्ल्ड ओवर इंटरेस्ट रेट्स 15 to 20 ईयर लो पे है। इवन इंडिया में भी आप देखोगे इंटरेस्ट रेट्स आर एट अ वेरी लो लेवल। तो इससे क्या हुआ है कि कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल, जो कंपनीज का कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल है, इट हैज ड्रामेटिकली कम डाउन। तो जब हम डिस्काउंटेड कैश फ्लो, यानी जो एक मेथोडोलॉजी है कोई भी शेयर को वैल्यू करने के लिए, उसमें जब हम डिस्काउंट रेट डालते हैं वो लगभग तकरीबन 1% से ज्यादा अभी हम नीचे रख रहे हैं। तो उससे क्या होता है कि ऑटोमेटिकली जो भी कंपनी का वैल्यू है वो 15% बढ़ जाता है। अगर आप 1% डिस्काउंट रेट घटाते हैं तो 20% 15% आपका वैल्यू कंपनी का बढ़ जाता है। तो ये दूसरी चीज हमें ध्यान में रखनी है। इसलिए मैंने बोला कि इंटरेस्ट रेट्स आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू लुक एट, क्योंकि अगर इंटरेस्ट रेट्स बढ़ेंगे तो अगेन डिस्काउंट रेट भी अपना बढ़ेगा। तो ये एक दूसरी चीज हमें देनी है। तीसरी चीज हमें ये देखनी है कि अभी FY22 और FY23 में अर्निंग एक्सपेक्टेशन क्या है। तो अभी ये Q1 में हमने बहुत बड़ा सेकेंड वेव ऑफ कोविड देखा, फिर भी काफी कंपनीज के अर्निंग्स बहुत अच्छे आएंगे। जैसे IT सेक्टर का अर्निंग्स, उसको कोई इंपैक्ट नहीं है। स्टील सेक्टर को कोई इंपैक्ट नहीं है। इवन बैंकिंग टू सम एक्सटेंट को भी बहुत कम इंपैक्ट आएगा। तो ये सब कहने का मतलब ये है कि अर्निंग्स इतना खराब नहीं होगा जो अनुमान है। तो ये हमें अगेन रखना है। यानी FY22 में ब्लूमबर्ग एस्टिमेट कह रहा है कि फ्रॉम 525 हम लोग डायरेक्ट 700 के ऊपर EPS हमारा निफ्टी कंपनीज का आएगा, और FY23 में इट वुड बी मोर देन 800 रुपीज। तो अगर 800 के आप हिसाब से देखोगे, FY23 के हिसाब से देखोगे, तो PE मल्टीपल अगेन आपका हिस्टोरिकल एवरेज पे आ जाएगा। तो ये मेरा थर्ड पॉइंट है। और फोर्थ पॉइंट, अभी हम जो पेन देख रहे हैं इकोनॉमी में वो खास करके अनऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर में है। यानी जो कंप्लायंस अच्छी तरह नहीं कर पाते हैं, जो टैक्स अच्छी तरह नहीं भरते हैं, जिनका ब्रांडिंग अच्छी तरह नहीं होता है, वहां पे पेन है। लेकिन स्टॉक मार्केट रिप्रेजेंट्स ऑर्गेनाइज्ड इकोनॉमी। तो ऑर्गेनाइज में तो हम देख रहे हैं कि मार्केट शेयर खींच रहे हैं वो लोग। हर एक सेक्टर में आप देखो तो ऑर्गेनाइज्ड जो अच्छी कंपनीज हैं, दे आर गेनिंग मार्केट शेयर फ्रॉम अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड। ये बहुत बड़ा शिफ्ट हुआ है आफ्टर डीमोनेटाइजेशन, आफ्टर रेरा, आफ्टर GST, आफ्टर IBC, और रिसेंटली हम सब ने देखा कि कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स कट भी हुआ था 2019 में। तो उसके वजह से भी अर्निंग्स काफी बढ़ गए हैं। तो ये पॉइंट के हिसाब से भी ऑर्गेनाइज्ड इकोनॉमी का हालत इतना खराब नहीं है जितना अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड का है। तो ये सब को मिला के इसलिए मैं मानता हूं कि प्री कोविड लेवल से मार्केट शुड बी अप अराउंड 30-35%, और अभी हम लोग ऑलमोस्ट 30% अप है। यानी मार्केट ने बहुत अच्छा विजडम दिखाया है, इसमें कोई गलती नहीं हुई है मार्केट से। और एक लास्ट पॉइंट रह गया मेरा कि अगर आप एक क्वार्टर में ऐसा अनुमान करते हैं कि पूरा अर्निंग्स चला जाएगा, यानी जीरो रेवेन्यू होगा, अगर Q1 सेकेंड वेव आया और उसके बाद हम मानते हैं कि हमारी कंपनी का जीरो रेवेन्यू होता है, एग्जांपल अगेन मैं टाइटन का लेता हूं कि सेल्स नहीं होता है पूरे क्वार्टर में, तो भी टाइटन का पूरा जो वैल्यू है डिस्काउंटेड कैश फ्लो में, उसका 1 क्वार्टर का इंपैक्ट इज जस्ट 2%, नॉट मोर देन दैट। तो अगर आप 2% निकाल दो, उसके सामने डिस्काउंट रेट की वजह से 15% का गेन, अर्निंग पर शेयर के वजह से 20% का गेन, ये सबको मिला हो तो मार्केट इज एट फेयर वैल्यूएशन। मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि यहाँ से एनी टाइम 10-15% करेक्शन आ सकता है, लेकिन इतना बड़ा करेक्शन आए उसका अनुमान मेरा नहीं है। ओनली इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग विच वी नीड टू ऑब्जर्व नाउ इज इंटरेस्ट रेट्स। अगर इंटरेस्ट रेट्स ड्रास्टिकली बढ़ते हैं तो वो हमें कॉज ऑफ कंसर्न देगा, तो वहां पे हमें अलर्ट रहना है। बाकी बातें और नैरेटिव्स उस पे जाने में कोई अर्थ नहीं है। दूसरा एक पॉइंट, अभी USA में क्या हुआ, इन्फ्लेशन 5% आ गया, यानी ऑलमोस्ट 29 ईयर हाई पे इन्फ्लेशन आया है। फिर भी वहां पे आप देखोगे तो बॉन्ड यील्ड 10 ईयर वहां का जो है वो 1.54 से नीचे आया। यानी इसका मतलब क्या है कि मार्केट इज एक्सपेक्टिंग कि ये इन्फ्लेशन जो है वो ट्रांजिटरी इन नेचर है, वो परमानेंट नहीं है। तो ट्रांजिटरी है और सप्लाई साइड कंस्ट्रेंट के वजह से है, तो वो तो सप्लाई आ जाएगी तो अगेन इन्फ्लेशन कूल ऑफ हो जाएगा। तो ये अभी मार्केट का एक्सपेक्टेशन ऐसा है कि लो इंटरेस्ट रेट्स आर हियर टू स्टे, और उसकी वजह से मार्केट इस तरह का वैल्यूएशन ओवरऑल मार्केट को भी दे रहा है और स्टॉक्स को भी मिल रहे हैं।
Thank you so much, sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the close of today's event. On behalf of Concept Group, I would like to extend a heartfelt gratitude to all of you for taking out time and joining us on a Sunday morning. We expect the same support from all of you in the events to come. I hope you are taking home with you some actionable insights which will help you to take smarter decisions and make better investments. All the unanswered questions will be answered on a one-on-one basis. Stay healthy, stay safe, and have a great day ahead.
Thank you.